This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.
All right, we got the University of Miami football team. They are hitting the road. They are going to take on the number 18 team in the country, that is Florida State. And my man, Ira Schoffel, managing editor of War Chant, is joining us now, co-host of Seminole Headlines. You can follow him on Twitter like I do and many others at Ira Schoffel. Ira, good morning, my friend. How are you doing?
Good morning, man. It would be a better morning if I ever paid attention to your Bitcoin advice, but it's a good morning. It's good morning up here in Tallahassee.
It's funny because it's like, every once in a while I'll get a newbie. Oh, that Bitcoin stuff, and I'm like, yo, dude, I've been talking about it since it was at 16,000. We're here. We're over 100,000. Please, enough already. Because they just tune in and they think I just got on the bandwagon and just talked about it. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, you were riding with us you still haven't gotten on.
Well, I feel like, man, it's too late, but I felt like that at 40 and 50 too. So, hey, what are you going to do?
It's not. It will 10x from here to 2030.
All right, buddy.
I'm just telling you, dude. Get a Cash App account, put $5 a week away. That's all. $5. You can afford $5 a week, but I want you to do the test of $5 a week and just leave it there and just let it sit there and just let it grow. Just watch it, and you're gonna go, oh, wait a minute, I need to put more in it.
Oh, you know, sports writers, man, we don't need all that. We got in our bank already, so we don't need to worry about that. You know that.
Yeah. And that money's growing.
Getting 1% in my savings account.
Oh, God. Don't even get me started with that. But anyway, it is what it is. But I'm just saying, do the test, the $5 test, and you'll be fine. And you'll that will win you over alone, just a $5 test. All right. We got a huge game when we talk about for the Seminoles, because they've got to get back on track. For the Canes, a huge game, because if you want to win the conference for once in your life and you want to get into the playoffs, these are the kind of games that you need to keep stacking. Like I stack stats here in Bitcoin, you got to keep stacking. So there's a lot on the line for this game this weekend.
Yeah, it's a huge game. I mean, obviously for Florida State, they desperately can't afford a second straight loss. Miami's got a little bit more wiggle room. They've played so well so far. They've got some significant wins. That Notre Dame game, I think, is going to look good as the year goes on. And so, they've got some wiggle room. It's not do or die for Miami. But if Florida State wants to be in the playoff, they want to compete for the ACC title, they really need to win this game. If they don't, they still can have a good season. But it's kind of a do or die game for Florida State.
Okay, so you cover them. You're all over them. We saw them 2 years ago. They were phenomenal. And then they lose the quarterback and everything goes to hell last year. And then, now they kind of started off well with the whole Alabama thing. And then obviously now they get tripped up. So you tell me what FSU team is this?
I think it's somewhere between the Alabama game and Virginia. I think this offense is for real. They had a nice game against Alabama, and then to go on the road at Virginia, who's not a good defense, not a great defense, but it's on the road in your conference, and you went up and put up 500 yards of offense, 250 plus passing, 250 plus rushing. It was not fluky. Then they had some, plays that could have been bigger, called back, either penalties or miscues. So, yeah, I think this offense is for real. The defense is probably what's between Alabama and Virginia. I think we watched that Alabama game and thought, well, this Florida State defense might be way better than we expected. Very physical. I thought they kind of punked Alabama. But then Virginia, you see what they look like when they don't play with that same edge. They're not incredibly talented. They're a solid defense. They've got some veteran players, not a ton of superstars, maybe a couple. So I think they just have to get back to playing. If they can play with the intensity, ferocity, physicality that they showed against Alabama, if they bring that on Saturday, I think it's going to be a great game. If they don't bring it, it's going to be a tough day against that Miami offensive line and Carson Beck.
Right, and that's where I was headed to start on the defensive side of the ball with Florida State. When I watched that Virginia game, they kind of did whatever they wanted to, and then when I start to look at Miami's offensive line and running backs, dude, it's way superior to what they're facing. And I'm thinking, oh, wait a minute, hold on a second. I think Miami's offensive line can have a lot of success against Florida State, and Carson Beck will be untouched if these guys can, if Virginia can run on these guys and move the offense like they can. The mammoth offensive line from Miami and Fletcher and Brown, and they get the third kid back this week. I really like Miami's chances here to push them around at the line of scrimmage.
That's what Mario's going to try to do. And he did it last year. Miami probably could have named their score against Florida State last year, but Mario was very content to just run the ball, only throw Cam Ward when he needed to, just kind of dominate the game, not let Florida State kind of a boa constrictor approach instead of a rattlesnake. He was just kind of trying to muscle them and knew they would get the win eventually. This year, I do think Florida State's offense is good enough that I don't know if Miami can be ultra conservative. Miami's defense is good. I'm not taking anything away from credit for them, but Florida State's got a good offense. Gus Malzahn has a good approach. Tommy Castellanos is a perfect fit for that approach. So I think they're going to score some points. I don't think it's quite as inept on offense. Certainly, it's nowhere near as inept as they were last year. But to your point, yeah, Miami's going to try to play bully ball. They're going to run the football and try to get Carson Beck in some situations where Florida State's not sure if it's a run or pass, and they can't just tee off on him. So the key for Florida State, man, they've got to bring numbers and take their chances. I think they're really they're very confident. They say they're very confident in these cornerbacks. They brought in a guy, Jerry Wilson, transfer from Houston, who's had a good start to the season. They like him a lot. He's really their top corner. Jabril Rawls is a guy that was a role player in the past, has stepped up as a starter. A really athletic kid has come on. And if they're as confident in those corners as they say they are, then you're going to have to bring numbers. You're going to have to bring numbers, stack the box, force Miami to throw the ball, and see if you can get home. But if you just sit back and play base against this Miami offense, I just don't see how you're going to be able to get any stops.
By the way, I am really a tortured Dolphins fan because the second you said Jerry Wilson, I just think about Jerry Wilson, the cornerback for the Dolphins, who was just absolutely toast.
This guy, his name was Jeremiah Wilson, but now 5 years into his college career, he decided he wanted to be Jerry. So I don't know. Maybe it's working out for him.
Not a good thing. Tell him Jerry Wilson, the corner, is not a good thing. Okay, and then you followed up with Jabril, which is just another nightmare name, for a Dolphin fan. But anyway, let me, as I digress here. There's no doubt I expect them to do bully ball when it's all said and done. Do you think they will stop them and force Beck to beat them? Because that's probably what you want them to do.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that's definitely what your path to success is. I think they'll have a pretty good shot at it. I think it'll be, again, I expect it to be somewhere between what they did against Alabama and Virginia. Again, I don't know what happened to Alabama that day, and I'm not taking anything away from Florida State for that win, but Alabama just cowered. They just took it. Florida State tried to punk them early, and Alabama just wore it. They did not fight back.
Ira, if Miami plays Florida at the end of last season instead of the beginning of the season, is it a different game?
Right. No, that's a great point. 100%. They found that Florida, for whatever reason, found themselves during that season. They've lost it again, apparently. Well, at least the quarterback. But yeah, I think
they had the other quarterback at that moment. They had not made the switch yet.
You're right.
And then they made the switch to the kid, and Lagway then got on a little bit of roll, and it would have been a hell of a lot more dangerous for Miami to play Florida at the back end of the year, which, by the way, that's the history of college football, that sometimes it matters when you get a team during the season, at what point, whether they had losses or they haven't found themselves. Dude,
it's a great point. And it's also, it speaks highly to how important it is to have the right quarterback, and a quarterback that the kids believe in. Because Carson Wentz, was on paper a much better quarterback than DJ Lagway as a freshman, but Lagway got those guys kind of believing, and I think that's what Tommy Castellanos has done, for Florida They That's why I do think they'll give an inspired effort on defense in this game, because they believe Tommy can take care of that side of the ball and that he's going to score some points. Now, if the game goes on and Miami is shutting down Florida State's offense, now you get into a situation where you see, okay, how much do these guys believe on defense? But I think going into the game, they believe in Castellanos. They believe they don't need to pitch a shutout to win. They just need to go get an occasional stop. And I think they'll play really, really hard. Now, again, whether they're good enough, we'll see. But I think it's going to be a good game, man. I think they're going to give them a real challenge.
And let me tell you, all right, now let's go to the other side of the ball with Tommy Castellanos. I'm going to say something blasphemous down here. Love the kid's gusto. Love his balls. Love his moxie. Love that he is fearless, okay? And I think that's his edge overall, okay? But he still is the guy that's going to give you a chance to get at him, because he's going to make a mistake or two, because he is so aggressive. What makes him also hurts him a little bit there. And I think that's where Miami can take a little advantage there when it comes to the passing game and Castellanos. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, no, that's definitely accurate. His superpower also might be his kryptonite. And I think you saw that early in that game at Virginia. You know, that Virginia goes down and scores off the turnover. Florida State gets the ball, drives straight down the field, gets to the 5-yard line. And on a 1st and 5, one of those RPO plays, he throws a pick. And that now Virginia's up 14-0. And FSU fans, you know, you're just like, how could you throw that ball? How could you do that? And it's like, man, you got to take some of that. If he was this athletic, made every throw, was completely consistent, never made bad decisions, he wouldn't be at Florida State. He'd already be in the NFL. And so you got to take, sometimes you got to take the bad with the good. But no, you're right. I mean, he's an ultra competitor. I was a little concerned when he made the comments during the summer, not because the comments, what I didn't like, and I don't know if you saw this or not, you probably did, the video he did after that, where when he was with Cam and Shador and those guys, and Isaac Horton from Alabama, and he kind of, I felt like, backed down from the comments a little bit. I was like, are you that guy? Are you the alpha, or are you pretending with the comments to the media? I think we've seen he is that guy. The way he competed against Alabama, I think he is that guy. He needs to be that guy, certainly for Florida State, and that's what gives them the chance. Now, is he going to make a mistake?
Let me tell you something, Ira. He has to stay being that guy.
Right.
That's what makes him who he is, because if he cowered to his mistakes, then he'll never get to where he's at right now. And because he's not a super talent, you got to deal with some of those mistakes. But the beauty is, dude, the guy's got cojones that don't fit inside Doak Campbell Stadium. And I gotta give the guy credit for that, because there are just certain dudes that play that way. And I commend them for that, because in order for you to overcome the fact that you're not supremely talented, you got to have some extra balls. And that dude has the balls. And I give him credit for that, bro. He has to play that way. Or if not, he's never going to be as effective as he is right now. And I think you said perfectly, you got to live with some of those speed bumps.
Yeah, I think that's why it went so poorly for him last year with Bill O'Brien. I think Bill O'Brien's trying to make him a quarterback, a pro-style quarterback. It's like, that's not that kid. He needs to be this guy. And yeah, man, I think, and you'll see it. We'll see how he responds when those Miami guys come hitting. And what you'll see is, and we've heard guys through the years of this rivalry talk about the respect they have for each other. They know it. You know, those guys know it. They know who's for real, who's got balls, who doesn't. And if he plays that way, he'll earn the respect of those dudes. And the level of the entire game will get higher. But if you don't bring it, if you look like a mark, they'll smell blood and it'll be over. So, again, man, I think he is for real, and I think that's going to be a great matchup when he's on offense and Miami's on defense.
Managing editor of warchant.com, Ira Schoffel, joining us. You can follow him on Twitter at Ira Schoffel. What should the Canes defense, and as the fans that are watching, what will be the main concern for their defense on that Seminoles offense outside of Castellanos, of course?
Yeah, I mean, listen, Gus Malzahn has done a really good job so far. He's got these guys not only believing, but he's putting them in good positions to succeed. And I think the way he does that and the way he did it against Alabama, and I think you'll see a lot of that in this game, is they know they can't man up with some of the Miami defensive linemen. They know that he's going to do what Gus Malzahn does. It's a lot of eye candy. It's a lot of misdirection, those jet sweeps, some reverses, get Castellanos going with his legs, try to get them to be hesitant. That's what happened to Alabama. Once Alabama got on their heels, now all of a sudden, okay, Gus can the whole playbook is in front of them. So that's going to be, I think, the key for Miami. Can they hone in and not get trapped in some of the misdirection, the eye candy, and just play what's in front of them? Miami is a better team, but if they let their aggression get the best of them, if he gets them moving one way and coming back the other way with a sucker punch, hitting him with the jab, now Gus has a chance to make something happen. So really, guys that weren't a big factor in that Virginia game, two guys that were not a big factor in that Virginia game, are Jalen Lucas, who's a running back receiver / dynamic little jitterbug kind of guy, and then Mekhi Danzy, the speedster. Those two guys are who they like to use on a lot of the East-West stuff. And if you see them, if they start having success, that really opens up. Now they do have some power backs. Gavin Sawchek, Roydell Williams, because Usman Kroma, the freshman, big, strong dudes who like to run between the tackles. But they're going to have to soften up that defense by going east to west first. And if they don't have success with that, then it'll be tough for those bigger backs.
If you're writing for War Chant, why will the Seminoles lose this game? What is it that they cannot allow Miami to do? And I think it's going to be where we started this damn conversation. But go ahead.
Yeah, 100%, man. They can't let Miami just go on 14-play drives. They have to get off the field. And so that doesn't mean stuffing the run. It doesn't mean, just dominating. That's not going to happen. They're not going to
stop. It stops. That's it, right?
Yeah. You just got to get some stops. You got to get off the field. And now, if you get that offense scoring a little bit and you put Miami under some game pressure, because the one thing Miami has not faced yet is a road environment and real game pressure throughout the course of a game. Notre Dame started to show some life late in that game, but for the most part, Miami was in control. They were in control against USF. Florida was never out of control in terms of score, but you knew Florida wasn't going to score, so you felt very comfortable. This game, you're going on the road for the first time. Doak's going to be electric, a night game. If the team upholds their part of the bargain, you get a little bit of a lead, put some game pressure on Miami. Now we have to see what Miami is really made of, and that's what. Listen, Miami should want to see that, because you're gonna get in some of these situations, certainly in the playoffs down the road, and so it's gonna be a great test for Miami. But that's the path to victory for Florida State. They have to live up to their part of the bargain, capitalize on that crowd, and put some game pressure on Miami.
All right, last two questions. From an outsider's point of view, you look at Mario now, and Mario has had his bumps in the road, and even the Georgia Tech game, and some of these questionable assistant coaches. It looks now like he's got it figured out, like his assistant, like he got the right defensive coordinator. He certainly has the right offensive coordinator right now. It looks like he's got his kids there now. From an outsider's point of view, does it look like Mario has turned the corner with the program?
Yeah, it definitely does. And sometimes this happens in stages with your staff. I know that when Lance Guidry, early on in his tenure, I talked to the Florida State coaches, and they were impressed by how hard he was getting guys to play. They felt like Miami's guys weren't playing as hard before Lance Guidry got there, and he got them to play harder. So that's a step. Well, now the next step is, they're playing better. They're playing smarter. And they're more coordinated, and it seems like they've got better overall talent. But yeah, man, you can't look at Miami and not think that they're one of the very few complete teams in college football. Now, again, the question about Carson Beck still is unanswered. How is he going to play if you really get after him? Because I don't think that's really happened yet. If you really get after him and there's game pressure and you're on the road, is he the guy? He won some big games at Georgia. There's no question 2 years ago. But he also had, the McConkey kid and Bowers. And, he had some all-time greats at the skill positions. He's got talent at Miami. But now it's going to be more about him making these plays than just being a young guy facilitating the offense. So that question's not answered, I don't think, completely. I think
it may never get answered because you have the wall of Montezuma in front of you.
Right.
You've got an NFL back in Mark Fletcher.
Right.
Brown is, pretty special. And what's the third kid now? I'm free. Allen. He's dude. He's a dynamite. So you may never get to that point with Beck. We may never find that out because if you play the way you're supposed to play, like the way Mario does, it doesn't put your quarterback in those positions. So it'll be very interesting to see if there's a team that can get the best of Miami early in a game to put them in that position that you're talking about.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And I don't know that Florida State's that team, but that's got to be their goal. And again, I think when you look at how they're going to do it, how can they possibly do it? I mean, it's going to have to be creating pressure, being very creative, and maybe have Miami make a mistake here or two. That's not unheard of. Teams make mistakes. I'm not saying Florida State has to hope for that, but I think sometimes we look at these teams and expect them to operate like machines in the factory, that everything's going to go perfectly. That's not how it works. It's not how it worked for Florida State up at Virginia. It's not how it worked for Miami in these last couple of years in some of the games they've lost. So, man, Florida State I didn't feel like they got much going their way in Virginia. They are going to have to get some things to go their way, I think, to win this game and to put that kind of pressure on Miami and Carson Beck.
All right, what's the prediction?
Man, I'm going with the crowd and the emotions. I think Florida State losing that game to Virginia was huge for Florida State. I think it gives them that edge that they need, that they had against Alabama. I think Miami, because they do have some wiggle room, it's not do or die. I know it's this rivalry. They're going to bring it. But at the end of the day, man, I think Florida State's going to be a little bit more desperate. And I think that crowd's going to be a factor. Miami not having been on the road yet. Some of those young players, as you said, that line is that line. That's going to travel. But some of those young guys that are super talented have not really been in this environment. And so I think that's going to be a factor. So I took Florida State to win. I think I said 34-27. But, man, anything could – I could see Florida State winning a close game, losing a close game, or Miami winning in a romp. The only scenario I can't see for this game is Florida State getting away with it. But I'm hopeful it's going to be a good game, and I think it is.
I'm the opposite of you are. I think it's going to be a kind of a close game because Florida State will be playing with a lot of desperation after losing, but I still think Miami is better. So I think they are the ones that win by that touchdown, 10 points, something like that. I just think they're the better team right now. Right now,
there's no question about that.
At the trenches, they're the better team on both sides of the line, I think. And it's what I've been talking about, why the Dolphins have been what they are for 40 years, because they never win at the line of scrimmage on a consistent basis on both sides. And that's the one thing that I give Mario a ton of credit, bro. He has not screwed around, and he has attacked recruiting on both lines of the scrimmage. And he's got the best defensive ends, I think, in the country.
This sport isn't that complicated. It really comes not. It usually comes down to the trenches and the quarterbacks. And man, Miami on paper, there's no question Miami's got both of those.
Yeah, dude. To me, it's just you win there. It just sets everything up for everybody else. Dude, Steve Walsh and Ken Dorsey aren't the most physically imposing dudes in the history of mankind. But when you put a line in front of them with some running backs and those receivers, they can orchestrate whatever the hell they want, and you're not going to touch them. And that's what I was telling you, that maybe that's what will happen to Carson Beck, because if you win there, the life for your quarterback is so much more easier, dude. It's just crazy, dude. It's just insane. Anyway, tell the Seminole fans out there, what are you working on War Chant so they can check you out, my friend?
Thanks, man. Yeah, plenty of coverage of the game. Our matchup analysis will be up later today, looking at all the position battles. That's coming. We've got a ton of recruiting coverage. They've got some big-time recruits, as you'd expect, coming in. Some probably that want to see the Canes, but most that want to see the Noles, and including some guys that are committed to other schools. Several guys are committed to the Gators. Some other schools where they might be looking around a little bit. So plenty of recruiting coverage, team coverage. And, man, it's a wall-to-wall until we get to Saturday night, 7:30. I can't wait. Can't wait for this one.
Me too, bro, because the Dolphins suck, so I need the Canes, bro. So much love, my brother. Enjoy yourself out there. Appreciate you always taking the time, man. Thank you.
Thanks, take care.
You got it. Ira Schoffel, managing editor of warchant.com. Go check him out. He's also the co-host of Seminoles Headlines, a good dude, a Miami dude. Okay, don't hold it against him because he's covering the Seminoles. No, but he's just an exceptional person, man. Just an exceptional person. But I like the Canes this week. All right, and they're favored by 4.5. So we'll see what happens. But go to warchant.com, follow him on Twitter at Ira Schoffel, and if you're a Seminoles fan, it's the only place to go. So for any of you Seminoles fans down here, make sure you check out warchant.com.
This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.